Welcome to another installment of Spring Tips. This is actually a very special extra installment of Spring Tips for the season in light of the amazing revelations from last week's epic SpringOne Platform event. In this installment, we're going to take a very brief look at banners and their place in a Spring Boot application. So we're going to go ahead and use 2.0 Snapshot, the latest and greatest. We're not using 2.0 Final yet because it's not here yet. And we're not going to use M7 because the feature doesn't exist in that release. So we'll go ahead and just leave it as is, hit demo, and that'll give us a zip file. We'll go here, we have the project as usual. We're going to open this up in our IDE. And we have, as I say, absolutely nothing on the class path. We have no web support, no JPA, nothing. But it's still a Spring Boot application, and a Spring Boot application with nothing on it can still start. And that really is all we need in this case, right, for our simple demo. So let's go ahead and open up the class here, the main entry point into the application, and kick it off. Okay. Run Alt-Shift-10. Okay. All right. So there we are. We have the application. It's up and running. This ASCII artwork has been in Spring Boot in some form or another since the the very first releases. This ASCII artwork used to be black and white only, right? And it's become a much beloved feature of Spring Boot. I think people all around the world would agree that Spring Boot is better for this ASCII artwork. I personally have always been a fan, and it's for this reason that I want to take a brief digression and talk about what I consider to be a very serious deficiency in the IntelliJ of Print's product. For while I'm a fan, I never really understood why this was here. So if you go to Edit Configurations, you can see it says Hide Banner. To me, that's a very dumb feature. I don't know why that's even there. I think we should get rid of it. So I did what all of us would have done in that same position. I went on the internet and I complained and cried on the internet, right? So I sent out a message on Twitter and I complained, and my friend Jan Sebron is a software developer. Let's see, he's a software developer by passion at IntelliJ JetBrains. He responded with a message of hope, which I share with you here now. Right? So we can see clearly there's hope on the horizon. Things are going to be fine. Hope springs eternal. So that said, the banner is really, really compelling. There are options for the banner itself. You can actually change the banner. You can say banner dot. There you go. What kind of banner do I want? Do I want it to run on the console with system.out, or do I want it to be logged? Right? If I did this, for example, you would actually get the same application. So let's see, Alt. Okay. Right. So there we go. It's actually part of the log now, as opposed to in the console. I think that should be. I think it's fine as it was. Whatever you do, do not put off. That's a terrible option. Just hit console. Right. So there we go. If we run this again, back to where we were. Okay. So that's the default behavior. Now, it's worth noting that in the first versions, we didn't support color codes. Right? This is a new feature that came in, I don't know, 1.2 or 1.3, and the color codes are a very, very important addition. They make it so that you can do a lot of very interesting things. So you can change the ASCII art as well. That's the important bit here, right? It supports color codes and it supports customization. So let's first look at customization. I'll run my little program here, cd desktop, and I've got banners.py. And the first one. Okay, so now, if you look at this, I've got a banner.txt file here, and this just says Spring Tips, right? It's just I just went to an online ASCII art generator, and there are just a bunch of them. If you look for ASCII text generators, right? ASCII, ASCII. So now, if we run this again, you can see the application reflects our customized Spring Tips ASCII banner, right? So that's one way to change the behavior of the application. Another, as I say, is to use color codes. So let's now do the second one. And now we've got a different ASCII art. And you can see that here we're using color codes, and there's actually these little symbols that will be replaced for you by Spring Boot. Anti-color black, anti-color bright red, black, etc. So whatever you put here is then whatever you put after these color codes is colorized by the code that precedes it, right? So these characters are going to be blue, those are going to be red, yellow, etc. So let's see what that gives us, right? I think you can agree that's pretty darned awesome. So we have now color ASCII art. I'm a fan, but this is not the final stretch, not the final feature by any means. We on the Spring Boot team don't rest on our laurels. So in 2015, arguably one of the most memorable and powerful features ever added to Spring Boot was submitted. This is ASCII art banner generated from an image. This was submitted by Craig Burke, who sent it with some default properties and sent along some suggested artwork. Right. So this here's an example of Spring Boot co-founder Phil Webb as ASCII artwork in the first pull request. This is November 30, 2015. So 2 years ago, and this took a long time to get right. This is arguably the most important feature we've ever added. If you look here, people said that this is the last thing stopping our team from adopting Spring Boot everywhere. Any chance of backporting it to 1.2? And then Craig Burke, who was the author of the pull request in the first place, he says, I'm shutting down all my current Spring Boot applications in production until this is merged. I'll probably get fired, but this is important, and I need to stand on principle here. And of course, Phil Webb responds, Spring Boot 1.3 has been out for weeks now. Weeks? What are you still doing on 1.2? Other people said that other technologies like Ratpack, which is a fairly new project, have supported it for a long time. This person says, I'm pretty sure Ratpack has supported this for 5 to 6 years. Why is Spring stuck in the dark ages? Dan Woods, who works on the Ratpack project, says, I can confirm, Ratpack has supported this for 6.5 years. Spring Boot, more like enterprise release cycle boot. And then, of course, Phil responds, such an unfair comparison. Ratpack is asynchronous and unblocking, and as a result, they can do everything faster. I think we need to consider the bigger picture here and look at how we can work together to create a standard. Craig, would you be able to draft a specification and create a TCK? I'm happy to donate my avatar to the project, and I believe that this would make a fine default banner for all projects. I also forgot, we're going to need a way to specify banners in XML, to which, of course, Craig responds, draft a specification, create a TCK, XML banners, what would that look like? What? Let me know what you need, and I can work on it. Phil Webb responds, I'm imagining some sort of cross between DocBook and WSDL. And then, of course, Andy Wilkinson, also on the Spring Boot team, responds, well, if we're going to go with XML, we ought to ensure it's as concise as possible. A single pixel banner is only 16 lines of XML. Look at that. That's glorious. And then Craig responds, this all seems very reasonable. I'll have it done within the hour. And it goes on. It gets a little crazy. At some point, Craig just responds, I'm just going to throw the banner into C data. It's valid XML, and that's all I really care about. People go back and forth on the technical, dynamics of the feature, and then finally, December 2. Now it's a few days later. Phil Webb responds, "I'm afraid the result of the discussion was to merge this in 1.4. We considered 1.3, but we decided that without a killer 1.4 feature, people just won't upgrade." To which Craig responds, "I certainly hope your gamble pays off." And then, in light of that, people have some ideas about color models and how to get all the color codes correct. And then, of course, people like Seaborn A here created a image to Spring Boot banner that uses that software to create your own banner. And of course, Craig responds back, "That's great." I had the same idea, and I built a command line utility here. This is again December 11th, 2015. It's a command line utility. You can cat an image to it, and it'll turn into ASCII artwork. I also built a REST API, a Spring Boot REST API that you could curl images to, and then upload images to, and it would dump out the ASCII art representation of that image. The source code, of course, is Apache 2 license, and it's available here at Josh Long Bootiful Banners. People went back and forth, and then Craig responds, "Has anyone ever done anything, something kind of dumb, and then things kind of snowball and get out of hand, and you don't know how to stop it?" "No, me either." And then Matt Rabel, of course, says, "Why would you stop it?" And people went on, and then somebody else built an image to banner feature as well. And then more people built it on top of that. Here's a Swagger version of it, right, using my code that in my project with a simple UI. And then people went on and on and on. And of course, we got to a point where eventually, April 8th, 2016, this feature was added to the actual code base, and it's merged, right? This is this is what Phil Webb said at the time. This is now merged. Thanks for one of the most important pull requests in the history of the project. And of course, at the time, this inspired a whole avalanche of amazing demos from the community. So if you go here, you can search for "tweet a boot banner," and there's a number of great boot banners that came out of this, right? So here's Spring Batch lead Michael T. Manella responding with the character of Dennis Rodman. Here's Craig Burke. That's much better. Look at that. Oh, that's a troll if I've ever seen it. Dieter Hubau responds with the dog pointing at you as a tweet, as a boot banner. Here's Phil Webb showing a photo of Margaret Hamilton standing next to the code that she wrote to take NASA to the moon using the Spring Boot banner. The Sarland Jug responds to our Duke as a Spring Boot banner. Andy Wilkinson, of course, didn't quite get the idea, but we'll give him a pass. Matt Slater, mentioned me and says make jar not war, and there's the ASCII artwork there. Edu Melendez, community member and legend Edu Melendez responds with the My Betas logo as Tweet a Boot banner. Simon Bosley at the time at Couchbase showed a photo of a boot plus Couchbase logo equals heart. That's awesome. Kubernetes, there's Phil Webb responding to me saying, Mr. Starbucks man, Spring developer advocate, and all-around nice guy. That's a photo of me, I guess. There's Stefan Nicole and Michael Simmons, community members and so on. A tip about the image banner. Here's the boot banner from Matt Rabel showing J Hipster, right? J Hipster logo. Spring Data lead Oliver Gerke responds with a photo of a boot with some spring leaves coming out of it. Awesome, right? Here's the Utah the delicate arch in Utah. Here's the gopher from Golang in Spring Boot from Toshiaki Maki, our community legend in the Tokyo area. The Spring Cloud Dataflow logo, updated with this ASCII artwork. More stuff. I don't quite understand what this one says. Obviously, I don't read Japanese, but some suggestions from Japan. Here's the Japanese Java user group, etc. Docker Saigon even got in on the joke and showed us their banner for their tool, which isn't Spring Boot, but it's still pretty cool. We got this one, which is the robot from Star Wars, right? And then, of course, we've got Putin and Yoda, and it goes on, right? There's just a number of different things out there, a number of different banners out there. There's Kafka, of course, Cassandra. I'm not sure what that is. It looks like a stormtrooper of some sort. What is that? Code Troopers. Okay, that makes sense, right? Lots of different options out there. And here's, of course, the epic conclusion of all of it, the Spring Doge in ASCII artwork. So lots of great stuff, and that's why it's useful to look at what this gives us. This is the color ASCII art. We can also do better. We can use images. So let's do that. That's 3, right? That's my third one. So now we'll run the application here. CD downloads demo Maven Spring-boot run. I'll do clean. All right. Look at that. So there is the Spring logo. That's an image, right? If you look at what I've got in the directory here, I've got banner.png. That's this thing right here, and that got turned into the Spring Leaf in ASCII art. That's awesome. So there we go. That's I didn't have to do anything to get that. That just works. That's the image feature, and that's where the state of the art has remained since 1.4. Now, at SpringOne Platform 2017, just last week, during the first day keynote, we revealed the biggest and best feature ever, and I'll show it to you now. Okay, so desktop banners.py, and I think it's 4. Okay, and now look at that, animated banners. I wish there was music playing. I hear music. I hear epic music in my head watching this. Now, sure, it adds like 30 seconds to the startup time. I don't even care. That's so great. That's awesome. So when we showed this, there was a boisterous round of applause. The entire auditorium went crazy. And I said we should have just shut down the conference then and there. There's no point in continuing. We had animated ASCII artwork. So that, my friends, is the future. I hope you'll consider that when you build your next Spring Boot application, or why not revisit your old ones? If you if you're not already planning on going to Spring Boot 2.0, this should be a compelling enough reason to justify the upgrade. So get on it, animate your banners, and with that, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.